Have you ever wanted a virtual assistant that actually is so highly educated and so authoritative that they're able to come in and tell you exactly what to do in your business? But yet you hear virtual assistants are docile, they are quiet, they are shy, and it's just not working out for you. In this video, we're going to show you exactly how to hire a virtual assistant that can take control and not only have production in your business, but be your boss. Hey guys, Justin Nelson here, founder and CEO of Sphere Rocket Virtual Assistants. And after 10,000 plus placements of virtual assistants across 4,000 plus business owners, one of the top questions I get all of the time is, Justin, we heard virtual assistants from the Philippines tend to be a little bit more reserved. They tend to be a little bit more on the shy side. Like, how do you hire virtual assistants that can take control? They take responsibility. And the word that I always get is that they take initiative, right? Like if they don't know something, how do they go and solve it? How do they bring a solution to me instead of me having to bring everything to them? And so in this video, we're going to cover everything along the lines of how to find a virtual assistant that takes initiative and takes control. Now, in order for them to take control, they have to feel like they have a sense of ownership in their project, in their role. And so we're going to go through that first. A lot of times when people hire virtual assistants, they use sites like Upwork and Fiverr, and they use these freelancer websites, which I will put, an air quote on. These are really great sites. Like they really are. Like there's nothing, and I'm not being facetious, I'm not being sarcastic about those. We use a lot of Fiverr and Upwork for a little project-based stuff as well. Even though I own a virtual assistant company where I have 200 plus VAs on my own personal team, we use all these different platforms as well to find freelancers. But when you hire a freelancer, you have to remember a freelancer is a freelancer. They're free of a lot of duties. They're free of a lot of different things. That's why it's called freelancing, right? They're going to come into your world. They're going to own something for a short amount of time, and then they're going to bounce out. That's their personality. They like doing that. They like that structure. And so when you think about a freelancer, they like the structure where they can dip in, dip out, dip in, dip out. They like the structure of not having a boss every single day, 8 to 5. And so when you go and get a freelancer virtual assistant and you try and do it on your own, you're going to find people that over time don't like to problem solve long term. They don't like to take deep problems and bring them to your attention and research and bring them the solution. They like to come in for a very specific job and get that done because that's their specialty. A great example of this are videographers, photographers, website developers, people that do coding projects, even executive assistants that are I'll come in and be your executive assistant for a week or two to help you bridge the gap. These are all virtual assistants. Maybe social media projects. I need this file done. I need this project designed. I need this edited, right? You see this all the time in the freelancing world, and most business owners are in a place where they need to hire more permanent help and not freelancers. And so I want to make sure that you guys associate virtual assistants. A lot of times are associated with freelancers, where virtual assistants should be, equated to. I use the word virtual assistant more because it's a hot term. It's a term that people have known, but really it's just building an offshore team. There's many benefits to building an offshore team, but when you're building your offshore team, you need to build an offshore team that functions a lot less like freelancers, right? And what does that look like? I'll give you guys an example. Instead of going to Fiverr and Upwork, maybe you guys come to a company like Sphere Rocket Virtual Assistants, where we are looking for corporate level talent out of the Philippines. Now, I'm going to pause you there and say corporate level talent. Whenever we're looking for corporate level talent, we're looking at virtual assistants, that have worked in the corporate world and in the Philippines. They refer to this as the word BPO, which stands for business processing outsourcing or business process outsourcing. They use a few different terms depending on who you ask, but it stands for BPO. And when you look at BPO, that means these VAs, it had a corporate history in the Philippines, usually supporting a foreign-based company, right? So they would be working in places like Google, Airbnb, Uber, Chase. They might be working in their support centers, their call centers. They might be working in their media departments, social media departments. They might be working in all kinds of different departments. Maybe it's finance, maybe it's collections, all these different places. And these are virtual assistants that are used to waking up in the morning or at night, going to work, clocking in 8 to 10 hours, right? They're used to having coworkers next to them. They're used to having huddles. They're used to having meetings. They're used to having trackers and accountability and one-on-ones. And they're used to having every 90-day reviews. They're used to hitting goals and initiatives. And they're used to, attending meetings with the big boss, the executives that will come in and, share the goal and the vision of the company. They're used to breaking bread over lunch with their fellow coworkers. And when you compare that to a freelancer, you're going to see the difference volunteer, right? Freelancers, are not going to take that initiative because they're not used to that structure. Like what you guys will see in a lot of these videos, just like the video that we just did of does a VA speak perfect English or not? It's like, yes, they do, and no, they don't, right? It depends on the recruitment, and it depends on where you're looking, and it depends on how well you screen. Same thing here. Whenever you're hiring a virtual assistant, if you want someone that takes initiative, you want someone that goes through the process, you have to do a specific recruitment to find that type of person. If you do the right type of recruitment and you find that type of person, then now you're going to have someone that takes more initiative and things like that. So I don't want to overcomplicate this, but if you're going and doing virtual assistant finding on your own, you need to make sure that you're targeting corporate level BPO employees. Now, I will say that that's not super easy. There are websites to do it. SphereRocket has a course on how to do that. Of course, we do it for you as well if you hire us for any of our placement services. But I just want you guys to know, like, that's the key. Like, even if you're talking to other VA companies and you're like, hey, like, what kind of VAs do you find? How do you find them? Like, you want to get to the root of, are they fundamentally focused on finding BPO based employees? Now, with that being said, I have thousands of VAs out of the 10,000 that didn't have a BPO background, and they've absolutely crushed it, right? So, like, I don't discriminate based on if they have to have a BPO background or not. I'm just saying that for a lot of you guys, that would greatly help you in exactly the situation that you're looking to accomplish. So again, just to recap, if you're looking for someone to have more authoritative nature, to take more accountability for projects, I would be looking for someone in the BPO background that has years of experience under different systems. I'll give you the best example. My CEO, Shireen, she started off with me at a few dollars an hour. Her corporate background experience from the Philippines, from Singapore, she was used to using Six Sigma and Agile and on using EOS, like all these different terms that we use for like managing teams and accountability and rocks and systems. Those are all things that she already knew, was able to implement with her team, and they built out, a massive team for us with doing that. And it's one of those things I never had to teach Shireen how to take initiative, how to go figure out things. And it's because she came with what we call batteries included, right? When you have a good recruitment, you're going to have something called batteries included. If you go hire a freelancer, usually they're going to have batteries included for one specific task, not for an overall, just great employee. If you go and headhunt the right person for a virtual assistant and they have the right background, they're going to come batteries included with all the things you want, right? They're going to be willing to speak up. They're going to be willing to take accountability. They're going to be willing to own projects. They're going to be willing to do research. They're going to be willing to go outside of just always needing you for help. Now, with that being said, recruitment, placement, whatever you want to call it, is never perfect. There are plenty of times where I have done exactly what I just shared with you, and I went and found the person and I thought they were going to have all those skills, and then they still turned out to be super reserved, super dependent on me as a business owner. And so I want you guys to know that it's never 100% perfect, but you're going to increase your chances in your shop by 80+% by just focusing right now on that BPO side, experienced worker. But that's why a lot of companies like us exist. It's why you hire companies like us, is so that way if there is a mismatch, that you don't spend your time having to spin your wheels, make a new hire, go through hundreds of interviews, make the job postings, and become a recruitment specialist. That's what we're for, because like even if a placement doesn't work, you want to be able to just call me, just like me, right? I hired 5 VAs last week. 1 didn't work out. You would think 5 of 5 would work out for me as the business owner of a VA company, but it doesn't, right? And that's the reality of just being truthful with you. But what I was able to do is now I have 4 new team members. The one that didn't work out, I just snapped my finger, put it in an order, to my recruitment team. They're bringing me candidates this week. It's not taking any more brain space of mine. And that's honestly why a lot of people fail with virtual assistants, is they'll hire one. It won't be quite to what they want, but then instead of trying to recruit again, they don't want to take that time to do it again, make the job postings, to go through the interviews and do it the right way. They'll just quit, right? And that's kind of like going to the gym 5 times, not liking the way you're looking, and then just quitting, right? Like that's not how that works. Like you have to keep at it. You have to do a thing, right? We have this all the time. If you make a sales call and you don't make it sale and they say no to you, do you just quit? No. But people, for some reason, when they hire a VA and it doesn't work out, they just quit. And so that's one thing that I'll give you guys as a piece of advice. If you want to increase the chances of not having to do that and having to go through that process again, focus on the BPO side, and that will give you the best chance to hire a VA that will control your life, which is ultimately what all of us want. As a business owner, we want people to take control, to take initiative, and be able to grow the business while we're not always looking. So that being said, guys, as always, make sure that you guys like, subscribe. If you guys are already working with a SphereRocket sales team member, you guys are welcome to reach back out to them to get started with a virtual assistant. If you've never met with my team and you want to learn a little bit more about how we can place a virtual assistant in your business for whatever position you guys need based on your industry and niche, you guys can click a link below to schedule a demo down below. With that being said, we'll see you guys in the next video.